Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything Arsenal. Let's get to the latest news and the latest transfer updates, beginning with this new one, the latest one from an Everton player. So obviously, Everton is going through some drama. Yesterday or 2 days ago, they were charged alongside Nottingham Forest in terms of FFP breaches. So it might come a time where they will have to sell a lot of players, maybe even beginning right now, especially if they end up getting relegated. They'll have to sell a lot of players. Now, back in the day, you'd say you want players like Calvert-Lewin and those kind of guys. I don't really like those I don't like players like Calvert-Lewin these days. There's not too many players that take from Everton, but there's a couple that you've been linked to, and this is the latest one from today. According to reports from Alex Cook, Arsenal are tracking Jarrad Branthwaite's situation at Everton. The Toffees could end up selling the centre back as he is one of their most sellable assets. So that's the latest news on Branthwaite. According to Alex Crook, one of the players who could be sold is Branthwaite. Is 21 years of age. This season, Everton have actually kept a lot of clean sheets, despite them being 17th, obviously, after being deducted points. They've kept some really big clean sheets. I think they've kept like 7 clean sheets in the Premier League, and Branthwaite has been part of 6 of them. So he's been part of that defense. Obviously, it's a collective effort from all the 4 defenders and the goalkeeper and the defensive midfields and the rest of the team pretty much. But he's been part of that defense that has kept 7 clean sheets. He's been part of 6 games. Some tough games, like they went to Crystal Palace, kept a clean sheet. They went to Nottingham, kept a clean sheet. And a couple of other games, I think they kept a clean sheet against Chelsea as well. I mean, those teams in the Premier League, especially when you go to play teams like Crystal Palace, Wolves, and those kind of guys, you expect them to score against you. So tough battles and all that. He is used to that, and he's only 21 years of age. He used to be at PSV on loan a couple of seasons ago, and he actually won a cup over there as well. And I've never really expected us to be linked to a player like this. But in terms of his age, 21, in terms of being linked to a centre back, it looks like we are looking for a centre back, at least a younger centre back, to come and help out Gabriel and Saliba. Personally, if I was choosing, I really want a fullback first, because I feel like centre back wise, we have Gabriel, we have Saliba, we have Branthwaite, who we can move there anytime we want. We have Tomiyasu, we can move there anytime we want. To still have Kivio. All this like centre back talk and fullback talk is kind of pointing out to Kivio could be leaving at the end of the season. At least like maybe he won't be here next season. But Branthwaite is a target. Now, is he a player that I've ever looked at and watched and I'm like, wow, my goodness, this guy is incredible? Not really, but I guess after being linked to him, you have to like really dig down deep in terms of how good he is and all that. But more on the news on him. Everton may sell Branthwaite, as he's probably the most sellable asset. Arsenal are tracking the situation amongst other clubs. A lot of clubs are right about FFP. Only one permanent signing made in the Premier League so far. So Branthwaite, in terms of his qualities, according to whoscore.com, they say it's very good in terms of aerial duels and also in terms of interceptions. Now, those are two very important things to have in a defender, especially interceptions. Our best interceptor of the ball is probably Declan Rice. And in terms of aerial duels, I think Gabriel and Saliba are very good in terms of aerial duels. So if you have another extra defender there, that would be great. And what's the worst thing that can happen in terms of signing this kind of player? Usually when you sign a player like Willian, who's already 30, if it doesn't work out for you, you're going to lose him on a free. But players like Branthwaite, I also include Tavares and Lokonga as part of that, although we haven't been able to sell them. If it doesn't work out, you can always sell them because they're very, very young. You might not get profit, but you might get the same amount you paid for them, or just a little bit less. But for a player like Branthwaite, I don't expect him to be a first choice player at Arsenal because you still have Gabriel and Saliba for that. I don't think he can also play as a fullback as well, but recently been linked to a lot of centre backs. Same Diomande from Sporting. We've also been linked to the 17-year-old from Ajax. So a few players that have been linked. So let's see how this one turns out. I mean, in terms of his market value, they're suggesting 25 million, but obviously Everton might want more, or they might be forced to sell him at 25 million because they're desperate for cash. So let's see how that one goes. But we've been linked to that centre back, Branthwaite, 21 years of age. So next game that Everton play, let's keep an eye on him. If we've not signed him by then, because Everton are not playing again anytime soon, actually. So let's see how that one works out. He's not the only player that we want from Everton. There is another player we want from Everton. So listen, no, I don't want to see any team getting deducted points. Listen, maybe Man City, I do want to see that happening. But in terms of the rest of the teams, I don't really bother in terms of, oh my goodness, let them get points deducted and all that. But obviously, if you don't follow the rules, that's the rules. You have to get your points deducted. But it's not good for the fans from the fans' point of view. It's bad on them. It's a bad thing to happen to the fans because you don't have any control on that. But after you feel sorry for them, you have to take advantage of the situation and you have to go for the players that you can get. And the second one that you've been linked to is Amadou Onana. What's the latest on him? According to Sean Dyche, he's been heavily linked before I was here, and after it's just another story. He's an Everton player, so any decision that we make on players, it will be us that decide. So again, another player that they might be forced to sell because of their situation. I watched him against Aston Villa the other day, and I looked very physical in midfield, tackles, getting involved in fights and all that. Tarkowski literally called him and Doucouré to help him out in a fight in that game against Aston Villa. So he's a player that, if you're to ask me in terms of midfielders, I probably wouldn't include him in my top 5 in terms of the midfielders that I want, realistic midfielders. But if he's the only one that you can get, well and good, because we all had a dream of getting a 100 million striker. Let's get a midfield, let's get a fullback, but it's not possible. As it's been written in this one at the end, only one permanent signing has been made in the Premier League so far. No team is going to sign any players really, maybe one at most because of the problems with money and FFP. People don't want to get themselves into trouble. Now, hopefully, by the end of the transfer window, we are able to get like 2 players like we did last January, Jorginho and Trossard in the last week. Hopefully, something can develop and you can get a couple of players. And Branthwaite is the kind of player you can get as a centre back, and Onana is a player you can also get as a midfield backup or as a midfield solution. Meantime, I don't think we're going to sign them. Maybe a loan deal with an obligation to sign at the end of the season or an option to buy at the end of the season. But right now, in terms of splashing cash for them, I can't see it happening unless they literally drop the price completely for them and then we end up getting any of them. But we could be signing a couple of players from Everton, Branthwaite and Onana, which will be very interesting. The Branthwaite one could happen very quickly. If I used to ask me between these two, which one is more possible in terms of happening, I'd say Branthwaite, because right now we have a problem with defense. And as I'm recording this, there's actually more news on another of our defenders. Let me just read that for you. Cedric Suarez. Cedric Suarez is a serious target for Besiktas. Talks of a move for right back are underway between Arsenal and the Turkish club. So Cedric is not a regular in our team, but is another option in terms of defense. So if Cedric goes as well, how many defenders do we have remaining right now? Kivio, Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White, because we're not counting Zinchenko because he's injured, and Tomiyasu is out at the Asian Cup. So we basically have 4 defenders fit at the moment. That is not enough. We 100% needed to buy a defender this January, or loan in a defender. It's absolutely crucial, because if something happens to Ben White or Gabriel or one of those players, we'll have to play one of the youngsters from the bench. We'll have to move Declan Rice to defense, or when Partey's back, he'll have to play right back or something like that. And I don't want to be forced to do that. So Branthwaite is one that I'd not be surprised if it moved very quickly and he ended up signing a player like Branthwaite. But Onana, let's see. Since Partey is back, the chances of that happening is quite low. But let's see what happens between those two. What about the latest on our goalkeeper? We have news from Fabrizio on David Raya. It says the Raya deal was going to be permanent at the beginning, but they had to change the structure of the deal because of FFP. Brentford decided to help Arsenal with that. The deal will be made permanent. It will be soon. From what I've heard, it's already agreed, so I don't know when they will make it official. So looks like we're going to pay them the 30 million. This is why people have been complaining they didn't really want a goalkeeper. Maybe that 30 million would have been used elsewhere. You're probably right, but obviously at the beginning of the season, you would never really have anticipated like Martinelli not scoring at all, Saka not scoring at all. I mean, they've scored goals, but you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't have anticipated like Saka not scoring, Martinelli not scoring, Jesus not scoring, Havertz not scoring, Odegaard not scoring, like all of them at the same time, Trossard and all those guys. I don't think you'd have anticipated like 6-7 players not scoring. And to us, maybe I would have thought, listen, if Nketiah doesn't score, at least Jesus is going to score this season, or at least Odegaard is going to keep up the form from last season, or at least Martinelli is going to keep up the form from last season. But it didn't happen. So we're pretty much in a tough situation. We're having to pay the David Raya deal because it's an agreement we had with Brentford. We also don't want to spell that relationship in case you want to go for Tony in the summer. But we are going to pay that money for David Raya, and that puts us in a tough position in terms of signing players. we have to move very carefully, because let's say we don't win the league this season, we don't want to go into next season with the -10 in terms of points and not win it for a third season in a row. We don't want that to happen in terms of our, the way we've been playing good football, third season in a row, like not winning. This is like our good time. This is a good time to be an Arsenal fan. The last 2 seasons, we want to capitalize on that and win a couple of trophies before all our good players like are about to leave. All that, we need to capitalize on that. So it's going to be tough. We have to be very clever in terms of how we move this January transfer window. We might have to get another Trossard. We might have to get another Jorginho, players like that. Let's see what happens. Speaking of Gabriel Jesus, in terms of injury news, Gabriel Jesus hoping to be back in the Arsenal squad for Saturday's game against Crystal Palace, but Alexander Zinchenko remains a doubt. So that brings me back to the point of we only have 4 defenders remaining. Once again, it's very easy to predict the lineup this weekend. The preview for that will be out tomorrow. Obviously, Kivior has to start at left back because we don't have anyone else with Zinchenko at down back. Good to have Gabriel Jesus back. He's been obviously under a lot of pressure as well, but the thing that he brings to the team is very, very different. We've been forced to start Havertz up front, start Nketiah up front whenever Jesus is not there. If he's there, I think the likes of Saka might nearly play even better when Jesus is there. So let's hope it works out. But I think the training is now done in Dubai. I think they'll be flying back today at the time of recording on Tuesday, or maybe by Wednesday they'll be back in London or something like that. Big game this weekend. We have to get back to that. And let's hope in the January transfer window you can be able to get a couple of players. Now, the thing about selling players, Nketiah obviously is being into Crystal Palace and all that. I think West Ham, Smith Rowe to Aston Villa. I think those teams also have to be careful, because we want like 30 million for Nketiah, we want like 30 million for Nelson, 30 million for Smith Rowe. I think for a team like Crystal Palace, they can be like, okay, we don't really have that money to pay for those players as well. So we're in a tough position, unless a team from abroad like Napoli says we have 30 million here for Nketiah, we have 25 million here for Nelson. That's the only way it can happen. But in terms of the other Premier League teams signing, maybe it will have to be like a swap deal or something like that. So, and it's going to be very, very tough. To do it within 2-3 weeks is tough. That's why I probably prefer doing it in the summer transfer window, where you have 3-4 months. In the January transfer window, it's going to be tough. But that's the latest. Let me know what you make about all that. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch up with you on the next.